Hello everyone. I'm Dr. Elham Shehaimi, Sustainability and CSR Strategist. Welcome to our discussion today on the Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs. Today, we will explore a range of important goals aimed at making our world a better place. Our journey begins with the transition from the Millennium Development Goals MDGs to the SDGs. Next, we will dive into each of the 17 goals, which cover essential areas such as ending poverty and hunger, ensuring equality education, and promoting gender equality. Each goal includes specific targets designed to adopt demanding global issues related to health, education, and the environment. Understanding these goals is vital because they serve as a roadmap for governments, organizations, and individuals to tackle some of the most critical challenges we face today. We will also discuss the importance of measuring progress for these goals and the role of organizations like the Federal Competitiveness and Statistics Centers in the United Arab Emirates. In addition, we will address the challenges faced in achieving these goals, particularly in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. This global crisis has increased many existing issues, making it even more urgent to find solutions. We will explore how we can innovate and create solutions to these challenges at different levels, personal, community, and global. By the end of this discussion, you will have a clearer understanding of what the SDGs are, why they matter, and how we can all play a part in making these goals a reality. So stay tuned as we unpack these vital topics and learn how we can contribute to a more sustainable future for everyone. Welcome to Lesson 2, where we will delve into how the world counters to significant challenges we face today. As we journey through this lesson, we will explore several global efforts aimed at addressing critical issues such as environmental degradation, social inequality, and economic instability. This exploration will help us understand not just the initiatives taken by government or organization, but also how collective actions by individuals and communities play a vital role in driving change. By the end of this lesson, you will understand the complexity of global challenges and the necessity for collaborative efforts in finding effective solutions. Together, we will consider our own roles in making a positive difference, confirming that every action, no matter how small, contributes to a larger impact on our planet and society. By the end of this lesson, you will have a comprehensive understanding of how global challenges have transformed over the years. You will learn to identify key indicators of sustainable development, which will enable you to evaluate progress to a more sustainable future. We will dive deep into the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, exploring what each goal entails and why it is essential for addressing global challenges. In addition to understanding the goals, we will discuss the different challenges that delay their achievement, such as resource limitations, political problems, and social barriers. You will also discover how you can make meaningful contributions to these goals at multiple levels: personal, organizational, community, and national. This lesson aims to empower you with the knowledge and tools needed to take proactive steps in fulfilling your individual social responsibility. By the end, you will be equipped to measure progress toward these goals and advocate for sustainable practices in your daily life. In this session, we aim to pinpoint the main challenges that the world faces today, providing a clearer context for our discussions. You will gain a better understanding of social responsibility, exploring its implications not only on an individual level, but also in a broader global context. We will delve into the differences and similarities between the Millennium Development Goals and the Sustainable Development Goals, highlighting how each set of goals aim to address global issues at their respective times. Additionally, we will discuss how progress to the SDGs is measured, focusing on several metrics and indicators used to assess effectiveness. By understanding these objectives, you will be better prepared to engage critically with the material, contributing to informed discussions about sustainable development and the ways we can all participate in creating a better future. We will watch a video titled Nations United Urgent Solutions for Urgent Times to start thinking about how we can take action in addressing global challenges. The video will show us that each of us has the power to make a difference. After watching, we will discuss how we can challenge the idea that individuals cannot cause change. Finally, you will complete the following sentence. These are some things that must be done, as part of our reflection on what actions we can take. Let's define individual social responsibility. Individual social responsibility, ISR, is all about how we, as individuals, can play an active role in shaping a better world. It's more than just about doing occasional acts of kindness. It's about embedding socially responsible behaviors into our daily lives. ISR is about considering how our personal actions impact others and the environment. Activists, for example, show ISR in very visible ways through their advocacy and efforts to address social injustice or environmental challenges. They push boundaries, challenge norms, and raise awareness about pressing issues. So, what quality would a socially responsible person have? Typically, they would be compassionate, alerted of their impact, and driven by a sense of fairness and justice. They might also be proactive, seeking opportunities to help rather than waiting for them to appear. We should all take a moment to think about how we can integrate ISR into our own lives. It could be something as simple as supporting local businesses, being mindful of our consumption, or participating in community initiatives. The idea is to consistently make choices that are good for both society and the environment, even in the small, everyday decisions we make. When we talk about social responsibility, we are referring to actions that benefit both society and the environment while avoiding harm. It's the idea that we as individuals or organizations should contribute positively to the world around us. Social responsibility exists at multiple levels. For individuals, it's about personal choices, how we treat others, how much waste we produce, how we support social causes. For businesses, this is known as corporate social responsibility, where companies take responsibility for their social and environmental impact. Similarly, universities have university social responsibility, which focus on how academic institutions can contribute to solving global challenges and creating a more equitable society. Each of these levels, individual, corporate, and academic, plays a crucial role in shaping a better future. When people or organizations act in socially responsible ways, they help build a more sustainable, inclusive, and fair world. The idea is to consider how every action, whether it's a business decision, a university program, or an individual choice, can contribute to the well-being of society. Corporate social responsibility is one of the most widely known forms of social responsibility today. It involves businesses stepping up to admit the impact they have on the world and taking action to ensure that impact is positive. CSR can manifest in a variety of ways. For instance, companies might focus on reducing their carbon footprints, improving labor practices, or supporting charitable causes. Many companies today implement CSR initiatives to show their commitment to sustainability and social issues. One example could be a company committing to use more sustainable materials in their products. Another might be donating a portion of their profit to local charities or engaging in efforts to clean up the environment. CSR isn't about being socially responsible. It's also a way for companies to build stronger relationships with their customers. People are more likely to support businesses that show they care about the planet and the people on it. However, as we will see in the next slide, not all CSR efforts are as genuine as they might seem. Greenwashing. While CSR has the potential to create real positive change, not all companies involved with it seriously. This is where greenwashing comes into play. Greenwashing is when companies give a false impression or misleading information about how environmentally friendly their products are or actions are. In other words, they claim to be green when they are actually not, or they exaggerate their environmental efforts. For example, a company might advertise its products as made from sustainable materials while still relying on environmentally destructive supply chains. As consumers, we need to be critical and informed about the companies we support. Genuine CSR involves meaningful, transparent actions, not just word or green-colored logos. The evolution of global response. The global response to environmental challenges has evolved over the years. In the 1950s and 60s, the Earth Watch initiative was one of the first coordinated efforts to monitor environmental challenges on a global scale. Earth Watch aimed to track issues like pollution and resource use, providing vital information that helped to raise awareness about the growing environmental crisis. However, many of these early initiatives operated in isolation without a unified or coordinated strategy. By the 1970s, environmental movements were gaining momentum, but they often lacked unity, with different groups working on their own agenda. This lack of coordination limited the effectiveness of their efforts. In 1992, the United Nations introduced Agenda 21, which was the first global agreement on sustainable development. It outlined clear roles and responsibilities for stakeholders in promoting sustainability. However, it did not fully link different sectors, leading to some isolation and competition. Developed countries did not reduce their consumption or transfer technology to developing nations, limiting overall progress. Need for 2030 Agenda. The Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, which spanned from 2000 to 2015, were a global effort to reduce poverty, improve health, and address other key issues. While the MDGs achieved some success, they were also criticized of their limited scope. This division overlooked the fact that sustainable development is a global challenge that requires cooperation from all countries, not just those in need. Additionally, the MDGs failed to address some of the root causes of sustainable development challenges, such as the lessening of natural resources or the role of powerful economies in global inequality. This led to the sense that a more global, inclusive approach was needed, one that didn't just focus on developing countries, but induced participation and responsibility for all nations. That's where the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals comes in. This updated framework, which includes the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs), aims to bridge the gap between nations, sectors, and challenges, creating a more integrated and cooperative approach to achieving global sustainability challenges. Assessing the past, the Millennium Development Goals. In this session, we will read an article by Prof. Jeffrey D. Sachs titled From Millennium Development Goals to Sustainable Development Goals. This will help us reflect on whether the MDGs were enough to address the problems we face today. Slide 13. Assessing the past, were the Millennium Development Goals enough? In our class discussion, we will explore how well the MDGs tackled the challenges the world currently faces. How comprehensive are the MDGs? Did they leave important issues unaddressed? This discussion will help us understand how the SDGs aim to fill in those gaps. The Millennium Development Goals, which were founded at the start of the millennium, provided a valued foundation for global development efforts. They were designed to address some of the most pressing issues at that time, like poverty, hunger, and health, and they made a real impact in many areas. However, despite their success, the MDGs also had some significant limitations. For one, they mainly focused on developing countries, with the assumption that developed nations had already achieved most of the targets. This approach wasn't very inclusive and created a divide where some countries were treated as having completing their part, while others were still struggling to catch up. Another limitation was the rigidity of the MDGs. These goals were set by a small group of experts, and while they were well-intentioned, they didn't involve a broader consultation process with all the stakeholders who would be affected. As a result, some voices were left out, and certain important factors weren't fully considered. For example, the MDGs mainly highlighted social issues, but didn't give enough attention to the economic, environmental, or political dimensions of development. This imbalance meant that while progress was made in some areas, others lagged, creating a need for a more comprehensive and inclusive set of goals. This is where the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) come in. The SDGs were created to address the shortcomings of the MDGs and provide a more holistic approach to global development. They aim to be more inclusive, covering all countries, both developed and developing, and considering a wider range of issues, including the environment, the economy, and political stability. The SDGs are a step forward in global cooperation and ambition, ensuring that no one is left behind. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In September 2015, a historic moment occurred at the United Nations when the member states came together to adopt the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. What makes the 2030 Agenda particularly important is how it was created. The process wasn't just a top-down effort by experts or governments. It was highly involved with inputs from different stakeholders, including civil society, businesses, and even individuals. This inclusive approach ensured that the goals reflected the diverse needs and perspectives of people all over the world. At the heart of the 2030 Agenda are the 17 Development Goals (SDGs) and 169 specific targets that outline the steps needed to achieve those goals. These goals cover a broad range of issues, from eliminating poverty and hunger to promoting gender equality, protecting the environment, and fostering peace and justice. What's remarkable about the SDGs is that they are designed to be interconnected, meaning progress in one area can directly impact progress in another. For example, improving education, Goal 4, can have a positive effect on reducing poverty, Goal 1, and vice versa. The key principle driving the 2030 Agenda is commitment to leave no one behind. The SDGs are designed to inspire action on critical challenges facing both humanity and the planet. The agenda's time frame spans from 2015 to 2030, giving countries a clearer roadmap for progress over these 15 years. The goals are ambitious, but they are also practical, supporting countries to take coordinated action that can have real lasting impacts. One of the strengths of the SDGs is their holistic approach, structured around 5 core themes known as the 5 Ps: people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. These themes highlight the connection of human development and environmental sustainability, and they affirm that no single area can be tackled in isolation. For example, fostering peace and justice is essential for creating an environment where prosperity can thrive. Similarly, protecting the planet ensures that future generations will have the resources they need to lead healthy, prosperous lives. by framing the SDGs around these interconnected themes. The 2030 Agenda highlights that progress in one area is not enough to achieve sustainable development. Success requires progress across all areas, creating a ripple effect that benefits both people and the planet. If the goals are met, we can look forward to a world where poverty is eliminated, inequality is reduced, and environmental degradation is reversed. This will profoundly improve lives worldwide and secure a more sustainable future for all. The 5 Ps: people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership are the core of the SDGs and represent the main themes guiding the 2030 Agenda. Each of these pillars is critical to achieving sustainable development. Let's break them down. People, the focus here is on improving the quality of life for everyone. This includes ending poverty, reducing inequality, ensuring access to education and healthcare, and promoting human rights. It's about ensuring that all people, regardless of where they live, have the opportunity to live healthy, fulfilling lives. Planet. This pillar highlights the importance of protecting our environment. Sustainable development can't happen if we continue to lessen natural resources, pollute the air and water, and contribute to climate change. Prosperity is all about ensuring that all people can enjoy prosperous and fulfilling life. It focuses on creating jobs, fostering innovation, and promoting sustainable economic growth. But it's also about making sure that economic development benefits everyone, not just a select few. Peace. Without peace, development cannot happen. This pillar focuses on promoting peaceful, just, and inclusive societies where everyone's rights are respected and conflicts are resolved through dialogue and cooperation. Partnership. Finally, partnership highlights the importance of collaboration. Sustainable development is a global effort that requires countries, organizations, and individuals to work together. No single country or organization can achieve the SDGs alone. It will take a united global effort. In our breakout activity, you will have the opportunity to rank these 5 Ps based on what you think is most important. This is an important exercise because it helps us understand that while all the 5 Ps are essential, different perspectives can shape how we order them. Discuss your thoughts with your classmates and consider why your rankings might differ. By understanding these different views, we can understand how interconnected these themes are and how they each contribute to sustainable development. Goal 1. End poverty in all its forms everywhere. Ending poverty in all its forms is the first of the SDGs, and it's a crucial one. As of 2015, around 10% of the world's population, which amounts to about 734 million people, were living on less than $1.90 a day. This level of extreme poverty is most dominant in regions like Southern Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, where families often struggle to meet their most basic needs, including food, shelter, and healthcare. The situation has only been made worse by recent global challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic led to the first increase in global poverty indicates, pushing millions of people back into extreme poverty. Natural disasters have also contributed to worsening the situation, especially in exposed communities. These events show us just how urgent it is to take action and work to eliminating poverty in all its forms. The challenge is big, but with coordinated global efforts, progress is possible. Goal 2, end hunger, achieve food security, and promote sustainable agriculture. Hunger and food insecurity remain major global challenges. When we talk about food insecurity, we are referring to situations where people don't have consistent access to enough affordable, sustainable food. Sadly, this issue has been worsening in recent years. Between 2014 and 2018, the percentage of individuals facing food insecurity rose from 23.2% to 26.4%. That's a major increase in just a few years, and it points a growing crisis that affects millions of people worldwide. The COVID-19 pandemic only added fuel to the fire. It disrupted food systems around the globe, making it harder for people to get the food they need. Supply chains were affected, prices went up, and many families struggled to put meals on the table. As a result, the pandemic led to more children suffering from stunting and wasting, serious health issues caused by malnutrition. Small-scale farmers are among the hardest hit by these crises. These farmers play a crucial role in feeding their communities, yet they are often the ones who suffer the most when food systems are disrupted. That's why it's so important to support them and promote sustainable agricultural practices. Sustainable agriculture means farming in ways that protect the environment, preserve resources for future generations, and ensure that farmers can continue to produce food even in the face of challenges like climate change and economic instability. Supporting small-scale farmers and promoting sustainability is key to achieving food security for all. Goal 3. Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Health is a very important and essential human right. And before the COVID-19 pandemic, the world was making progress in many areas related to health. However, when the pandemic hit, it severely affected health systems across the globe. Many countries were forced to change their focus and resources entirely to fighting the virus, which meant that other important health services were ignored. One of the biggest challenges was in childhood vaccine programs. These programs are essential for preventing diseases. Unfortunately, about 70 countries had to stop their routine vaccination programs during the pandemic, which put millions of children at risk. This interruption means that diseases that were once under control could return, especially in poor regions. Looking ahead, if we are to achieve universal health coverage by 2030, we need a massive investment in health systems. It's estimated that we will need an additional 18 million health workers to meet the demand for quality healthcare. Access to healthcare is vital for promoting well-being and preventing illness, and every person, regardless of where they live, deserves the opportunity to receive the care they need. Goal 4. Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Education is one of the most powerful tools for improving lives. Yet, millions of children worldwide still don't have access to quality education. Currently, 57 million children of primary school age are out of school. What's even more concerning is that more than half of these children live in sub-Saharan Africa, a region that has long faced challenges related to poverty, conflict, and infrastructure. Education is crucial for breaking the cycle of poverty, yet so many children are missing out on this opportunity. The situation is mostly difficult for girls. In many developing countries, girls are less likely to attend school than boys, and this inequality is most marked in regions affected by conflict. In fact, 1 in 4 girls in developing countries does not attend school. Conflict not only disrupts education systems, but also creates additional barriers for children, especially girls, to access education safely. On top of this, about 103 million youth worldwide lack basic literacy skills, with more than 60% of them being girls. This gender gaps highlights the ongoing challenges in achieving gender equality in education. Without basic literacy, young people are less likely to secure jobs, support their families, and contribute to their communities in meaningful ways. Ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education means making sure that every child, regardless of their background, has access to learning opportunities. This includes not only formal education, but also opportunities for lifelong learning so that individuals can continue to develop their skills and knowledge through their lives. Goal 5. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Gender equality remains a critical issue worldwide, and while progress has been made, much more work needs to be done. For example, as of November 2018, 24% of national parliament members around the world were women. This lack of representation means that women's voices are not being heard at the highest levels of decision making, which can limit progress on issues that extremely affect women and girls, such as healthcare, education, and labor rights. Additionally, nearly 750 million women and girls today were married before the age of 18. Early marriage often stops opportunity for education and personal development and can lead to negative health outcomes, including higher risk during childbirth. Women also face economic inequality in many sectors. For instance, in agriculture, women own only 13% of the land, even while they make up a significant portion of the agricultural workforce. This limits their economic power and their ability to influence decisions related to land use and farming practices. Moreover, women globally earn just 77 cents for every dollar that men earn for the same work. This gender pay gap not only affects women's economic independence, but also results broader social inequalities. Finally, around 35% of women have experienced physical or sexual violence, which has affected their health and well-being. Achieving gender equality is not just about ensuring that women have equal opportunities. It's about creating a more just and fair society for everyone. Goal 6. Ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Water is essential for life, but right now, our planet is facing a serious water crisis. Over the last century, we have lost 70% of the world's natural wetlands, which are vital ecosystems that help store and clean water. Today, more than 2 billion people are living in areas where water is rare, and this number is expected to grow as the global population increase and climate change worsens. One of the biggest problems is that 80% of wastewater from homes, factories, and farms is released into rivers and oceans without being properly treated. In 2015, 2.3 billion people did not have access to basic sanitation facilities, and 892 million people were still practicing open defecation, meaning they had no proper toilet. Additionally, 844 million people lacked access to safe drinking water. These are major issues that affect people's health and well-being. We need to focus on water management, making sure that everyone has access to clean water and proper sanitation, which are key to improving health, protecting the environment, and ensuring a better quality of life for all. Goal 7. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Energy is something many of us take for granted, but about 1 in 7 people globally still do not have access to electricity, especially in rural areas of developing countries. Without electricity, it's hard for communities to grow economically and daily life becomes more challenging. Imagine trying to study, work, or care for your family without power. The energy sector also has a big impact on the environment. It's responsible for about 60% of the greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change. On top of that, over 40% of the world's population, about 3 billion people, still use dirty polluting fuels like wood and coal for cooking. This can cause serious health problems, particularly for women and children who spend the most of their time near these cooking fires. However, there is hope in the growing clean energy industry. In 2017, the renewable energy sector employed 10.3 million people, and that number continues to rise. By investing in renewable energy like wind, solar, and hydroelectric power, we can reduce pollution, create jobs, and provide sustainable energy for everyone. Goal 8, promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth, decent work for all. Economic growth and job creation are essential for improving people's lives. But right now, growth is slowing and the gap between the rich and the poor is widening. There simply aren't enough jobs available to meet the needs of the growing global workforce. In 2015, more than 204 million people were unemployed. By 2018, around 700 million workers were living in poverty, making less than $3.20 a day. This is not even enough to cover basic needs. Creating more job opportunities that are accessible to everyone, regardless of their background, is crucial. This includes ensuring that people have access to full and productive employment where they can work in safe conditions, earn a fair wage, and contribute to the economy in meaningful way. Promoting inclusive and sustainable economic growth means making sure that everyone benefits, not just a few, and that the growth we achieve is long-lasting and environmentally responsible. Goal 9. Build resilient infrastructure and foster innovation. Infrastructure, which includes things like roads, electricity, and internet access, is the backbone of modern society. But in many parts of the world, poor infrastructure is holding back progress. For businesses, this can reduce productivity by as much as 40%. In developing countries, 2.6 billion people still don't have reliable access to electricity, which is essential for running business, school, and hospitals. Even more staggering, over 4 billion people, more than half of the global population, still don't have access to the internet. This limits their ability to connect with the world, access information, and take advantage of new opportunities. Investing in infrastructure is critical to overcoming these challenges. At the same time, we need to focus on sustainable industries, meaning industries that are environmentally friendly and socially responsible. By fostering innovation, supporting new technologies and solutions, we can find better ways to address economic and environmental challenges. Building resilient infrastructure and promoting sustainable industries are key to creating a future where everyone can thrive. Goal 10. Reduce inequality within and among countries. Inequality is a growing issue worldwide, affecting people in many different ways. Currently, the richest 10% of the global population earn up to 40% of the total income, while the poorest 10% earn only between 2 and 7%. This gap highlights that wealth is not being shared fairly, leaving many people without access to opportunities that could improve their lives, such as education, healthcare, and housing. In the Arab region, inequality is even more visible. When the Human Development Index, which measures progress in areas like health, education, and income, is adjusted for inequality, there is a 24.9% loss. This is much higher than the global average, showing that inequality in this region is more severe. Another important aspect of inequality is unpaid work, especially the housework done by women. Women spend twice as much time on housework as men, but this work often goes unrecognized and it's not valued in economic terms. This unpaid labor contributes to gender inequality as women have less time and fewer opportunities to participate in paid work or advance their careers. Reducing inequality is crucial for building a fairer world. By addressing income gaps and recognizing the value of unpaid work, we can create a society where everyone has equal opportunities, regardless of where they live, their background, or gender. This will help ensure that everyone can live a life with dignity and access to the resources they need. Goal 11. Make cities and the human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. More than half of the world's population now lives in cities. Urban areas are important hubs for economic growth, producing about 80% of global GDP. However, not all city dwellers live in good conditions. It's estimated that 828 million people live in slums, informal, overcrowded areas without access to basic services like clean water and sanitation. As the global population grows, these numbers are expected to increase, which raise concern about the sustainability of our cities. For cities to support sustainable development, they must become safer and more inclusive. This means better planning, building affordable housing, improving public transportation, and ensuring access to essential services like education and healthcare for everyone. By doing so, we can make cities places where all people, regardless of income level, can live with dignity and security. Goal 12, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. To maintain a healthy planet and strong economies, we must change how we produce and consume goods. One major issue we face today is food waste. Every year, around 1.3 billion tons of food is thrown away. This is especially troubling because nearly 2 billion people worldwide are hungry or undernourished. This large gap between food waste and the need for food is not only unfair, but it's also unsustainable. When food is wasted, it not only means that people are going hungry, but it also contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, harming our planet. In addition to food waste, we can also make simple changes in our daily lives to reduce waste and save money. One effective way is by using energy efficient products. For example, if everyone switched to energy efficient light bulbs, we could save approximately $120 billion each year. These light bulbs use less electricity, which not only lowers our energy bills, but also reduces the demand for electricity generated from fossil fuels, decreasing our carbon footprint. By adopting more sustainable consumption and production practices, we can protect our environment, reduce waste, and create a healthier planet for future generations. This means being mindful of what we buy, using resources wisely, and supporting companies that prioritize sustainability. Together, we have the power to create positive change that benefit both our planet and our economies. Goal 13. Take urgent action for climate change and its impact. Climate change is one of the most significant challenges facing the planet today. Its impact is being felt within all regions over the world, and the situation continues to worsen if no action is taken. The Earth's average temperature has already risen by about 1 degree Celsius since pre-industrial times, primarily due to human activities like burning fossil fuels. Also, 1 degree Celsius may not seem like much. Even this small increase has caused significant changes in weather patterns, leading to more frequent and intense heat waves, wildfires, floods, and droughts. The rise in global temperatures is also causing polar ice to melt, which contributes to rising sea levels. Since 1880, the average sea level has risen about 20 centimeters. And if we do nothing to stop global warming, it could rise up to 122 centimeters by the year of 2100. Flooding, erosion, and the contamination of fresh water supplies are just a few of the serious risks associated with rising sea levels. Beyond the environmental impact, climate change also has significant social and economic consequences. Exposed communities, often in developing nations, are the most affected by extreme weather events, which can destroy homes, disrupt agriculture, and force people to migrate. Climate-related disasters push people deeper into poverty and create instability in regions already struggling with resource scarcity. However, addressing climate change is not just about avoiding disaster. It also presents enormous opportunities for progress. Currently, energy production and consumption are responsible for about 60% of global greenhouse gas emissions. By transitioning to clean energy sources like wind, solar, and hydropower, we can reduce emissions and slow the rate of global warming. Moreover, investing in renewable energy will create millions of new jobs. In fact, the renewable energy sector is projected to create around 18 million jobs by 2030. Everyone, governments, businesses, communities, and individuals has a role to play in combating climate change. If we act now, we can limit the global warming, reduce its impacts, and build a more sustainable future for generations to come. Goal 14. Protect and sustainably use marine resources for sustainable development. Oceans are essential for life on Earth. They cover more than 70% of the planet and are home to a wide variety of species, from the smallest plankton to the largest whales. Oceans play a critical role in regulating the Earth's climate by absorbing CO2 and heat. In fact, oceans absorb about 30% of the CO2 produced by human activities. This natural process helps to slow the rate of climate change, but it also has serious side effects. When oceans absorb CO2, they become more acidic, a process known as ocean acidification, which puts at risk marine life, particularly species that rely on calcium carbonate to build their shells and skeletons like corals and shellfish. Since the Industrial Revolution, ocean acidification has increased by 26%, which has a cascading effect on marine ecosystems. More than 3 billion people rely on marine and coastal biodiversity for their livelihoods. Yet many fish stocks are being depleted faster than can replenish. Additionally, approximately 8 million tons of plastic end up in the ocean every year, putting at risk marine life and polluting the water. Plastic waste harms marine animals such as turtles and seabirds, who often mistake it for food. It also breaks down into microplastic, which enter the food chain, posing a risk to human health. Additionally, Goal 14 aims to reduce marine pollution of all kinds, particularly from land-based activities. Another important aspect of this goal is protecting marine and coastal ecosystems such as coral reefs, mangroves, and seagrass beds. Preserving these areas is vital for maintaining biodiversity and ensuring the resilience of coastal communities. Goal 15. Protect biodiversity. Forests and terrestrial ecosystems are essential for life on Earth, providing critical resources and services that people and wildlife rely on. About 1.6 billion people, many of whom live in rural communities, depend on forests for their livelihoods. Forests also provide food, medicine, and shelter while acting as carbon sinks that help mitigate climate change by absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere. In addition to supporting human life, forests are home to over 80% of the world's terrestrial biodiversity, including plants, animals, and microorganisms that contribute to healthy ecosystems. However, human activities like deforestation and unsustainable agriculture and urbanization are putting immense pressure on these ecosystems. Every year, millions of hectares of forests are lost due to logging, agriculture, and infrastructure development. Agriculture is another critical area that directly supports 2.6 billion people globally. While agriculture is necessary to feed the world's population, unsustainable farming practices can lead to soil degradation and water scarcity. In fact, Land degradation is one of the biggest environmental challenges affecting millions of people worldwide, particularly in developing countries where agriculture productivity is vital for economic stability. Nature-based climate solutions such as reforestation, sustainable agriculture, and land restoration have the potential to significantly reduce CO2 emissions. By protecting and restoring ecosystems, we can reduce greenhouse gas levels and help mitigate the effects of climate change. Goal 15 calls for the sustainable management of forests, the fight against desertification, and the preservation of biodiversity. It highlights the need to end biodiversity loss by protecting species from extinction and ensuring ecosystem can continue to support life on Earth. If we take action to protect our ecosystem now, we can sustain both human and wildlife populations for future generations. Goal 16. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development. Achieving sustainable development is closely linked to promoting peace, justice, and strong institutions. Without peaceful and inclusive societies, it becomes nearly impossible to address issues like poverty, inequality, and environmental degradation. Conflict, violence, and corruption disrupt societies, delay economic development, and cause widespread suffering, making it harder to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Currently, there are at least 10 million stateless people around the world who have been denied nationality and the rights that become with it, such as access to education, healthcare, and employment. Statelessness often occurs due to discrimination, gaps in nationality laws, or conflicts that force people to flee their countries without proper documentation. Without legal recognition, stateless individuals face significant barriers to fully participating in society. Corruption is another major problem to development. It weakens institutions, increases inequality, and undermines public trust in governments. Corruption also diverts resources away from essential services like healthcare, education, and infrastructure. To create a better future, we need to promote good governance, transparency, and accountability in institutions at all levels. Goal 16 focuses on building peaceful, inclusive societies where everyone has access to justice and human rights. It calls for the development of effective, accountable institutions that can address the needs of all people regardless of their background. By working to reduce violence, protect human rights, and ensure justice for all, we can create a foundation for sustainable development that benefits everyone. Goal 17, Global Partnership for Sustainable Development. To successfully achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, global cooperation is essential. No single country or organization can solve the world's challenges alone. Goal 17 highlights the need for strong partnerships between governments, private sector, civil society, and international organizations to mobilize the resources and expertise required to meet the Sustainable Development Goals. One of the key aspects of this goal is ensuring that developing countries have access to the financial resources and technology they need to implement sustainable development strategies. This includes increasing foreign aid, providing capacity building support, and ensuring that trade policies promote fair and equitable growth. In addition to financial assistance, technology transfer is crucial. Many developing countries need access to new technologies that can improve productivity, promote clean energy, and foster innovation. Collaboration between different sectors is also vital. The private sector plays a critical role in driving economic growth, creating jobs, and fostering innovation. Governments, in turn, are responsible for creating policies and regulations that support sustainable development, while civil society organizations help to raise awareness and advocate for social justice. When these sectors work together, they can pool their resources and knowledge to solve complex global challenges like poverty, inequality, and climate change. Goal 17 also highlights the importance of sharing data and knowledge. Accurate, reliable data is essential for measuring progress toward the SDGs and identifying areas where additional efforts are needed. By working together at the global, regional, and local levels, we can ensure that sustainable development benefits everyone and leaves no one behind. The 5 Ps. Let's revisit the activity from slide 1. In your groups, pick 2 of the Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs that you believe need urgent attention. Think about why you choose these goals and how they connect to each other. After your discussion, be ready to share your thoughts with the class. This is a great opportunity to hear different perspectives. Measuring the SDGs. Now let's talk about measuring progress for the SDGs. One important lesson we learned from the Millennium Development Goals or MDGs is that monitoring needs to be proactive and transparent. There are 247 unique indicators we use to track our progress with the Sustainable Development Goals. At the national level, it's up to national statistical offices to report on how well we are doing. However, these offices face several challenges such as limited human and financial resources to gather accurate data, the political will to report on progress is sometimes lacking, collaboration with stakeholders, including data holders and collectors, can be challenging. Often the data collected is not disaggregated or standardized, which makes it hard to analyze. There is a need to modernize how we gather and analyze statistics. Serious data gaps exist, meaning not all goals and indicators are reported. In simpler terms, they often struggle with limited human and financial resources, and there is sometimes a lack of political will to report accurately. There are serious gaps in data reporting for all goals and indicators, and while there is a follow-up process at the international level, but this reporting remains voluntary. Now let's take a look at the Federal Competitiveness and Statistics Center or FCSC, which was established to boost the UAE's performance in global competitiveness and statistics. Their goal is to support the United Emirates Plan for 2071. FCSC is actively involved in building a national statistical system that integrates different data sources, raising the UAE's competitiveness across different sectors, enhancing the country's position in global competitiveness report, achieving the Sustainable Development Goals at the General Secretariat of the National Committee for the SDGs, recommending policies and strategies related to competitiveness and statistics to decision makers in the UAE, promoting awareness about the importance of quality data and statistical information at a national level. The FCSC is doing a lot of important work. They are building a national statistical system and raising the UAE's profile in global competitiveness reports. They also play a key role in achieving the SDGs at the General Secretariat of the National Committee for the SDGs. Additionally, they help develop policies and strategies related to competitiveness and statistics for several stakeholders in the United Arab Emirates. They are also working to promote awareness about the importance of accurate data and statistics at a national level. Progress to SDGs. Now let's discuss the progress to Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs. Unfortunately, for the first time, the global average SDG index score for 2020 decreased compared to the previous year. This decline is largely due to rising poverty rates and unemployment caused by the pandemic. The impact of the pandemic has been significant and widespread. It's likely that the decline in SDG performance is underestimated because we don't have enough data to measure all the effects accurately. The pandemic has affected all three dimensions of sustainable development: economic, social, and environmental. For example, many people lost their job, which increased poverty, while education systems faced major disruptions. Countries all over the world, whether developed or developing, have felt the impact. It's clear that without addressing the ongoing pandemic and its consequences, we cannot hope for sustainable development or economic recovery. To move forward, we need to find effective solutions to the challenges posed by COVID-19 and support exposed communities that have been hit the hardest. Let's take a closer look at the mega trends that are negatively impacting our progress to the SDGs. These trends include climate change, the digital divide, international migration, and demographic shifts. Each of these issues presents unique challenges that complicates our efforts to achieve the goals. We also face the challenges like limited data availability and a lack of technical knowledge. For example, without data, it becomes difficult to measure progress and identify areas that need urgent attention. The global pandemic has really slowed down our progress and even reversed some of the improvements we had already made in different areas. We are seeing that developed countries are recovering faster than others, which is likely to widen the gap in progress between rich and poor nations. This disparity can lead to increased inequalities and make it harder for developing countries to catch up. We also have challenges with governance and political will, which are essential to ensure that our development program become sustainable long-term practices. The SDGs include a wide range of goals with many targets, so the task ahead is significant and we must work together to overcome these problems. Challenges in achieving the SDGs. Let's dive into some specific challenges in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. One of the biggest challenges is funding. There is an ongoing debate about how these goals will be financed, with a clear divide between the North and the South. Cooperation is urgently needed to finance the SDGs effectively, as many developing countries struggle to gather the resources needed. Currently, we are not on track to meet all the goals by 2030. The United Nations estimates that achieving the SDGs will require annual investments of $5 to $7 trillion in sustainable projects. Unfortunately, both public and private investment are lacking, especially in low-income developing countries. This lack of funding hampering our progress for achieving these critical goals. Without financial support, it becomes increasingly difficult to implement effective programs that can lead to real change. To bridge this gap, we need to urge more investment and collaboration between countries, businesses, and organizations. Everyone has a role to play in ensuring that we can meet our goals and create a sustainable future for all. Now it's time for another breakout activity. I'd like you to split into groups and choose one or more sustainable development goal. Think creatively about innovative solutions at different levels: personal, organizational, community, national, or international. Once you have brainstormed some ideas, please share them with your classmates. Additionally, I will assign each group a case study. Your task is to identify the SDGs targeted in your case study. As you review the case studies, consider whether there are any negative effects on other SDGs. This will help you see how interconnected these goals are. Before we wrap up, let's check in on some learning objectives. First, how has the global response to sustainable development changed over the years? Second, can you name the Sustainable Development Goals? Next, what challenges are we facing in achieving these goals? And finally, how are the SDGs measured and what challenges do we face in this process? For those interested in extended topics for self-study, consider exploring university social responsibility. How can USR help students achieve individual social responsibility? And how can you engage the student body with USR? For further reading, I recommend the article by Lozano and Alvarez titled University Social Responsibility in the Global Context, an overview of literature, but published in January 2012 in the Business and Professional Ethics Journal. As we wrap up our exploration of the Sustainable Development Goals, let's recap the key points we covered. We started by understanding the shift from the Millennium Development Goals to the SDGs, highlighting the importance of inclusivity in addressing global challenges. The SDGs are a more comprehensive approach to development. We then discussed the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, highlighting how each goal targets critical issues like poverty, hunger, health, education, and gender equality. Each goal is interconnected, creating a framework for sustainable development that considers economic, social, and environmental factors. By addressing these issues holistically, we can create a better world for all. Measuring progress is vital for achieving these goals. Organizations like the FCSC are instrumental in gathering and analyzing data to track advancements. However, we also face the reality of several challenges, particularly those increased by the COVID-19 pandemic, which has reversed some of the progress we have made in many sectors. The pandemic has underscored the weaknesses in our system and highlighted the need for resilience and adaptability in our approaches. Now, what can you do? Here are some action steps to consider. First, educate yourself and others about the Sustainable Development Goals and their importance. Sharing knowledge is a powerful way to raise awareness and inspire others to take action. Second, think about how you can contribute personally or through your organization. This could involve supporting local initiatives that align with the SDGs or advocating for policy changes that promote sustainable practices in your community. Lastly, engage in discussions like the breakout activities we mentioned to brainstorm on innovative solutions to the challenges we face today. Whether it's in your community or on a larger scale, every action counts. Remember, achieving the SDGs requires cooperation and commitment from all of us. By working together, we can tackle these challenges and make meaningful strides for a better, more sustainable future. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and let's continue to make a positive impact.